I've been buying CD players since 1987.
In 1982, Sony revolutionized music.
And I had a question. Are the old ones built better than the new ones? Do the old ones sound better than the new ones?
Pure sound played by laser.
Well, it's complicated. So buckle up and sit down and grab a cup of coffee because we're going to talk about whether you should buy a new CD player or one older than your flock of seagulls t-shirt.
Considering its quality and size, the compact disc most certainly will become a part of our everyday lives in the future.
In 1982, Sony and Philips co-created the compact disc, which promised perfect sound forever.
No hisses and crackles, of course.
No pops, no scratches, no need for Dolby noise reduction. And unlike vinyl and cassette tapes, you could instantly skip to the next track. No rewinding, no moving the needle around. Behind the scenes, a standard was created so that one CD would work on a variety of machines. It was called the Red Book standard. And by the late 80s, CDs were everywhere and they took over cassettes as far as units sold. Labels loved it. Cheaper to make, and they could sell it for more money. And there's a whole other video talking about price fixing, but I'll link that at the end. However, not everything was great, because you know that perfect sound forever that they promised you? Well, things got interesting initially.
Take the new compact disc. 1 hour of Mozart, pure sound played by laser.
If you were around at the beginning of the CD player, especially the super affordable ones, you know that they sounded not great. And if you want to get a little technical, the first DACs, or the digital to analog converters, weren't 16-bit, they were 14-bit. That's not really important. What's really important is that they didn't sound good. People described the sound as glassy, harsh, fatiguing, thin. Since all this digital technology was early, there was stuff called oversampling. It wasn't done very well. It created ringing, made things sound even more artificial. And if you had one of those early CD players, you probably heard that. It's a lot of fun. Of course, the audiophiles that were skeptical of the new technology said, we're going back to vinyl. However, something cool happened. Philips came to the rescue with a DAC chip. It was the TDA-1541, a 16-bit multi-bit DAC. The only thing that you need to know is it sounded really good. Smoothed everything out, and now all of a sudden that CD sounded, well, like analog, but better. Because it was perfect now, and you could skip tracks and stuff. And those machines that had that DAC chip inside garnered a cult following. And finally, that new digital format actually sounded good. They weren't done yet, though.
If you truly revere great sound and lots of it, you have only one choice. Pioneer's incredible 6-disc CD player. Not evolutionary, revolutionary.
When CD players were new, obviously there wasn't a whole lot of companies making parts for them, so all these companies had to make their own transports, their own trays, their own everything. And Philips's CDM series, well, this thing was built like a tank. Sony also came out with a KSS laser assembly. It was engineered with precision motors and fine Corinthian leather. Just kidding, it was made from cheddar cheese. But even though it wasn't made from cheddar cheese, it was still very robust and reliable. And their insistence on Corinthian leather made it elegant. Some of those machines still running today. But once CDs went mainstream, well, they had to make stuff cheaper. And the first thing they cut down on was all the cheddar cheese and Corinthian leather.
To give you the one music experience conventional stereo never could. Reality.
Anybody out there rocking a vintage CD player? I want to hear about it. Tell me what model it is, tell me how it sounds, and tell me if you've ever had to have it repaired and where you got it repaired at. By the late 90s and the early 2000s, they started doing a bunch of stuff out of plastic. The glory days of the tank-like CD players were over. And because CDs were somewhat ubiquitous now with data storage and software, Well, there's a whole bunch of companies making components. So most of the CD player manufacturers just started buying off-the-shelf parts. And one of the biggest issues was plastic trays. Because they wobble, they actually resonate and put extra stress on the laser assembly. And since it's vibrating all over the place, it makes the CD player reread the data. And then there's jitter introduced, which is digital stuff that makes it not sound good. And all of those issues led to compromised sound. And here's the problem. Modern CD players, they're still buying off-the-shelf parts, but there's fewer OEMs making off-the-shelf parts. And they're all cheap. Now, there are exceptions, of course, but you're gonna pay the price. Actually, Esoteric, a Japanese company, and TAC, well, they have really overbuilt mechanisms and trays, basically kind of clamping down the top of the CD so you don't have that wobble. Anyway, that makes it sound better. But if you want the Esoteric, it's going to cost more than probably a semester of tuition for your kid. In the 90s, we hit what was kind of considered the golden era of DACs. The best players, now granted they were expensive, used either multi-bit or R2R DACs. And R2R DAC uses discrete components like, well, resistors. And a lot of people consider, myself included, that an R2R DAC just sounds more analog, organic, lifelike. A lot of these players also had heavy-duty linear power supplies, big transformers, clean rails, and if you open them up, they look like a decent hi-fi component, not like an appliance. However, not all the budget CD players got that wonderful magic Philips multi-bit chip. Now, in the 2020s, well, DAC technology has come a long way. We have 32-bit DACs in just about everything. Most Delta Sigma chips today, from Sabre, from AKM, from Analog Devices, from Burr Brown, sound pretty good. Power supplies, 80s, 90s, better, beefier. Power supplies now, cheaper, noisier. So, if the philosophies around mechanics and DAC implementation has both changed, what does that mean when we go out and buy a CD player today? If you take a CD player from 1985, 1995, and 2025, they're all going to sound different. I'm painting with broad strokes here, so I'm really talking about the evolution of the CD player, not necessarily specific models, because there's always outliers, ones that sound awesome. In 85, even the good expensive ones didn't sound great, but they had great components. They were heavy duty, and normally they had great power supplies. And if you can find one with the legendary Philips TDA 1541 DAC chip, well, buy it. And a lot of these units are still running flawlessly 30 to 40 years later. In 95, even on budget models, they started figuring out how to put in a decent sounding DAC. But in 95, the quality of the components started to go down because of all the off-the-shelf parts that were available. A lot of those parts also went into drives on computers, so they weren't necessarily optimized for audio playback. For the modern players, especially in the last 5 years, DAC technology has just gotten way better. Also, op-amp technology, way better. With these newer DACs, you get better jitter control, better oversampling. We're talking about a 32-bit DAC versus a 14 or a 16-bit DAC. Not that that always matters though. And most CD players today have a digital output, a coaxial or an optical. So you can bypass the internal DAC of the CD player and put it into one of your favorite DACs. The gotcha with modern CD players, though, is the quality of the components. It just doesn't last as long. Fewer companies making transports, fewer companies making laser assemblies. And some would consider that a modern CD player is a little bit more clinical than some of the better ones from 1995. So, should you buy a vintage CD player, a new CD player, or buy one of these? It's a surprise that I kept till the very end.
Considering its quality and size, the compact disc most certainly will become a part of our everyday lives in the future.
Pure sound played by laser.
As with anything in audio, it's complicated. If you find a vintage CD player that's in great shape and you think it can be repaired, consider it. And do not overlook Blu-ray players and DVD players from Oppo. They have great DACs and great mechanisms and great trays. And if you find one of those Grail vintage CD players with that Philips TDA 1541, take a chance and grab it, unless it's like crazy expensive. A lot of the CD players you can get today, well, they're shadows of their older grandpas from the 80s and 90s. But there's some good ones out there. And Esoteric and TIAC, they're basically making no compromises CD players. They use what's called the VRDS, which is awesome. It clamps the CD down, whole bunch of stuff. Also has a in-house designed DAC section. It's amazing, it's discreet. I've heard it, it's crazy good. It's crazy expensive too, but it's crazy good. And if you really wanna go on a trip back to the 90s, did you know that Onkyo and Yamaha still make a 6-disc CD carousel? The Onkyo is like $300, and I think I'm buying one today because Crutchfield has an open box for like $250. So please consider a CD player, vintage or new. Go to Goodwill, grab a fistful of CDs, and don't binge watch Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen and fill your soul with happiness. If you want to support the channel, I got a bunch of new products on my store. Links in the description. Thank you so much for watching.
In 1982, Sony revolutionized music.
Pure sound played by laser.
Considering its quality and size, the compact disc most certainly will become a part of our everyday lives in the future.